Good afternoon, everyone. It's really great to be here on my alma mater. Go FIT. I think one of the great things we want to really announce today during your lunch, relaxing, obviously you saw some of the tough situations that are happening right now in the fashion industry over the course of the last 2 days. You're seeing what's happening in your classes, you're seeing what's happening in your daily life. F4D and FIT have announced, or will be announcing today in Women's Wear Daily, that we will be having and issuing a strategic partnership going forward for the students and for all of the platforms that F4D and F4D Solutions are going to be going forward with for 2019 and 2020. So super exciting. We look forward to all of you guys being part of it and connecting. Evie, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing various events, workshops, seminars, that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you guys visited the Commonwealth exhibit last September that we brought to FIT. So that was one of our initial projects, which was what was featured initially in Buckingham Palace in the presence of the Duchess of Cambridge. So we hope to be bringing much more exciting exhibits and also cultural exchange, not only sustainability, but other ways of, spreading your wings and seeing more across the world of what's happening in fashion and culture as well. So.
And Evie, what would you say has been most surprising and most challenging as Fashion for Development has evolved over the years?
Well, my biggest task initially was I brought fashion to the United Nations. My goal was to take the stigma that fashion is just pink and foo-foo and, luxury, and I wanted to state that it has an importance and it's huge industry that can make a difference. So my challenges were initially breaking through the walls of getting all these diplomats and people that are world leaders to accept fashion as a key industry to take part in the evolution and what's happening. And initially they were all kind of like smiling and laughing at me like, yeah, fashion, whatever. And that was about almost 10 years ago. And now I see that they're all over fashion. So the biggest, I think, change was that we were able to get that to happen, and then a lot of other people jumped along. So I was glad that we were able to initiate that originally.
What do you think made them look at it differently?
I think, we went into different countries and we started speaking to different presidents and heads of state and first ladies, and they actually saw the economic issue, which we were able to bring economic development to different regions. So that was one of the first things. And then obviously, throughout the years, it came up that fashion is the second largest polluting industry in the world. So, the big issue of climate change came through. And so there was good and bad, in the sense, bad that we've been a toxic industry, and number two, and good in the fact that we have such a loud voice and we garner the attention of people. When you put a fashion show out there, everybody looks, but when you put devastation or doom and gloom, people shut it off. So I think we have two things that have come to play.
And Jeanine, how are younger designers such as Harun Preston helping to move the category forward and encourage people to look at it differently?
So Harun, who I had the honor to spend some time with in Nairobi at the United Nations kickoff of climate change and environment, we've been able to really connect on a lot of issues on where he was going as a young designer and using sustainability as a forefront. He did a great collaboration with the New York Department of Sanitation, in which he took all of the uniforms from the garbage men and upcycled them all and created an amazing collection for the young generations out there. So we have been really talking about what is the next, or what are the next business practices and ways of going forward in innovation. And we're talking about innovative materials, but designing into the system from the beginning, not having to retrofit it, using innovative materials and business practices, looking at new ways and technology of how to do it in a sustainable way, environmental circularity, upcycling, reselling, renting, lots of business models. And he and some of the others of his brethren are really embracing the opportunity that fashion is, the future of fashion is moving in a really different direction than we have seen in the past. And that is, for me, the most positive change that we can see right now in the industry. Changing from the old school guard of long lead times, supply chains out there, big inventories. We're really looking at innovative designers and also the consumers who are asking for something different. And that's the interesting part of what's changing right now in the marketplace.
Do you get the sense from some of the younger designers that there is a greater sense of urgency and that the time is now and it's not something to be discussed in boardrooms, but to take action?
I think the consumers are asking for that, yes. I think that what you're starting to see, and one of the reasons why we really wanted to do this partnership with FIT was the opportunity that education and the young and the future designers that are coming out of universities, coming out of kind of collaboration and incubators, really have the new ideas of really what's going to change this industry. And the ideas in the boardroom is really how do they retrofit a supply chain that's already broken? How do they stop the margin goals from shrinking in an ever-changing, difficult landscape in the fashion industry? You know, the biggest issues that some of the executives have right now are the headwinds coming to them. The economic downturns, 2019, 2020, we're going to be seeing a lot of different things. And technology, social and environmental identity, and trust are the biggest issues that every CEO is going to be looking at going forward, and they have to deal with that. The younger generation is coming up with new solutions. They're looking at it for the future, and they're offering the consumer something that they haven't seen before.
And we were talking earlier a little bit about the seriousness of the topic. Obviously, everyone here has been listening to numerous statistics in the course of the conversations. Do you think at a certain point that deters from the interest with consumers?
It's really hard to say. You know, look, we all want to be positive because there are some positive things happening. And over the last 2 to 3 years, you start to really see the fashion companies embracing the opportunity of sustainability, social transparencies, traceability in the supply chain. Those are all great things that are happening. The unfortunate part and the reality is that action or actionable things that we have to do right now we don't have the luxury of waiting. You look at companies that are really moving, and it's taking them quite a long time. Yesterday we were listening to Laurent from Kering, Kering has done an amazing job in the luxury area, but they really had to make some internal adjustments. They had to go from top down. And I see that most of the bigger companies right now are really fighting that fight. So I look to the younger generation to be more nimble, flexible, and to design from the beginning the right way.
And some people seem to think that there's a stigma with sustainability in that if a product's environmentally sound, then that means it must be ugly. What do you think is going to change that?
Well, I think we definitely need to work with designers and bring the new innovations to them where they can actually utilize textiles and new technologies to make a better garment. Because, I mean, I was trying even 7 years ago to bring sustainable designs and clothing from different parts of Asia and Europe, and we even had a sit down with Bloomingdale's, and they looked at it and they said, well, you know, it's great that it has these sustainability features, but our customer's not going to buy it because obviously it doesn't look pretty. So I think that's a huge issue. And I think the design part has to now come together with the newest technologies that are coming out, which were not there 7 years ago when that started, or 10 years ago, in order to make a better garment, a prettier garment, and something that people will want.
Yes, fibers are changing, practices are changing. You have young designers. I see my friend Dana from Mara Hoffman over there. They're doing some wonderful things over there. Well, kudos to those guys. The product looks great. They have a real sustainability story. They're doing the right thing every day, and they're working very hard at it. And companies like that are really the future of where we're going to be looking to move forward. Designing out processes in innovation is going to take a long time if you try to retrofit it. But starting from the beginning and doing the right thing, that's the future. You can't just turn a supply chain that's been active for 30 years upside down and try to make it better. You have to reinvent it, and you have to reinvent what the value chain is. Not anymore the supply chain, but what the value and what it does it mean for the actual product itself.
And so many brands and companies are really zeroing in on Gen Z and millennials. How integral do you think they are in terms of furthering sustainability and advancing it?
Okay, well, I was reading enough because I was actually, my stepdaughter's over there, Julia, don't hide. She's someone who I'm going to talk about in the sense that she's embraced the resale and the secondhand market from the beginning. Didn't have to tell her that it was bad. I didn't have to say, don't do that or don't go and buy fast fashion, because she knew that this was her style and this is where the future was. But what's happening right now is Gen Z and millennials are 2.5 times more likely to purchase from resale or pre-owned or rentals than any other generation that's currently in the market right now. So that's really hopeful to the business models and the opportunities that are going to be going out there. The fact that they want newness. They don't want to be photographed again on Instagram, but it doesn't mean that they have to own it, right? So giving them different business models and ways to create the new opportunity of style in their wardrobe is going to be the key factor to changing maybe some of the practices that we have in place right now in our kind of consumption, fast fashion driven world. So we're looking to them hopefully to change the headwinds to the structure.
And Franco Sozzani was one of the key supporters early on for F4D. What were some of the things that she was committed to, and how have those evolved over the years?
Franco Sozzani, former editor-in-chief of Vogue Italia, was our Goodwill ambassador up till a couple of years ago when, sadly, she passed. Her biggest focus was the continent of Africa, because it's been a continent that's been looked upon as filled with, disease, corruption, genocide, all kinds of issues. And when we met with the UN Secretary General, we decided to, first of all, do a full issue in L'Uomo Vogue on rebranding Africa, and that was all the way back in 2011. We not only featured fashion, but we featured film and art, and interviewed heads of state and first ladies and queens and, everybody there. And I believe that since then, the fashion weeks in Africa took a turn, and we created a lot of visibility for them. We also she spearheaded partnerships with Italian manufacturers and brands to create and produce in Africa. And we were able to train women and create jobs and create income for them, which was one of the biggest things. So she was more on the humanitarian side, and we're still, of course, continuing Franco's work. As a matter of fact, Sarah Mayano, who's now the deputy editor-in-chief of Vogue Italia, which is Franco's niece, will be continuing her work for us. And we also work with a lot of partners like Same Sky and different organizations that have been doing similar things that we support. So yes, we are continuing Franco's dream for sure.
And we were also talking a little bit about her son's efforts, while not tied to F4D, but he's doing innovative things with VR. Do you think that's a new way to capture people?
Oh yeah, I think we need immersive experiences. I think we need to take people through the process to experience, like what he did, which was the process of a garment, and to feel it through your 5 senses. And I think we have to create ways where people can truly understand, not the doom and gloom, okay, in 2030, we're gonna be done, we're gonna be finished. No. How do we experience what's happening now? How do we make that change and have people feel it? So I think he created a project which did that kind of experience where you walk through and experience the making of a garment from the water to the sea to the whatever. And I think more and more of that needs to come to be.
And how important do you think sustainability is to consumers? Is it something that they think they need to support, or that they're genuinely committed to it?
I don't think there's enough awareness or education out there. And I think people are just jumping on the word sustainability and they really don't know what it means. In my opinion, sustainable, I'm tired of hearing it. It's really being responsible. It's being responsible about your lifestyle, right? It's being responsible about what you do every day, what you wear, what you eat. How do we save the planet? It's a whole lifestyle. It's not just what you wear. But I think we need to go out there, and I was even thinking, we need Broadway shows that are going to tell the story. I mean, I want to create a Broadway show that people go and experience this. I think we need films, we need, music, we need all of the arts to come together and reach out to people. We need series on Lifetime and all these things. And hey, we can make it a love story, but behind it is going to be all these issues so that people can really relate to it on a day-to-day life, not just this word, that everybody's just throwing out there, because what does it really mean? If we're responsible today, we can create a sustainable tomorrow. That's how I look at it.
Nicely done. Yeah.
And what are some of the more innovative companies that you've met with that are trying to change what's being done with sustainability?
Well, I mean, I think that we can take it in on several levels. There's brands, but I'm looking at it as sustainable products now. I mean, I think that supply chain and people who are innovating in the supply chain are really doing amazing things. And I think that's really where some of our focus needs to shift. It's about all the people who are doing the hard work, really innovating and doing the great things out there, that we need to start shifting our focus and really getting behind. Yesterday we were talking with Dr. Joyce Brown. She was giving a speech. She was telling about some of the real changes that are happening in FIT, which I really thought was somewhat interesting for us to really discuss, and that is that it's not just about designing anymore. It's about really designing throughout the entire chain. You're knowing from the beginning what your raw materials are to how your raw materials and your product will be circulated back into the world, right? And that's the kind of responsibility that I think what we need to look at in the fashion industry going forward is really what is the responsibility and how to be responsible across the advantages. So there's things that we are looking at in the biotech space, from mushrooms, to oranges, to, you're growing your own. I mean, what are the supply chains of the future might be in laboratories, sitting here in Brooklyn Navy Yard. Those are the cool ideas, and that's really where maybe the opportunity that we have to reinvent what the industry will be is going to be the most interesting part of this revolution, which I call, in the sense that we are shifting the paradigm. We're shifting what the revolution of the industry will be, in the sense that we don't need to grow cotton if we can grow fiber in the laboratory right across, the river from us. Those are going to be the interesting opportunities that we look to and that we need to start building. And it's not about the brand, it's about the innovators in the supply chain who are doing those things and what brands utilize them. So it can be something, how do we reduce no water on the dyeing process? How do we circular every garment that comes through our Department of Sanitation and make it happen? So that, for me, that's the future. It's not necessarily the brands that are doing it, but really the people incubating in the supply chain that are the future.
But I just wanted to say that I think a big issue is consumption and the landfills and the disposable clothing. So can we work on redesign? Can we get a new group of designers that are coming out there that will just obviously take what's there and redesign it and redo it? Because what do we do with all that stuff that's piling up? I mean, we've had a 40% increase in the last 20 years of disposable clothing because of fast fashion. How do we recycle all of that and get rid of it? Because that is a big issue. So it's not just getting new properties, it's what do we do with all that old stuff?
And how integral are sustainable practices in the countries where F4D is working?
The developing countries have a lot of problems. So, we first have to look at, do they have enough food to eat? Do they have clean water? And I don't think it's one of their priorities right now. I think it will come to be, but there's a lot of other issues that are life-threatening, immediate life-threatening. So, but I think there are changes being made there as well, and that's why we deal with the heads of state and try to bring that in as well. But it's not as important as it is in the developing countries, which are, your biggest brands and global brands, and where a lot of the manufacturing is taking place. And some of those areas are underdeveloped. But I think they need to first, save their children and, live in order to do it.
And there's been talk of HSBC and ING and some other financial institutions seeking out companies that are really dedicated to sustainable practices and then in turn investing in them. How pivotal do you think that strategy will be in terms of strengthening sustainability across the board?
I think that's a huge unlock for the industry in general. As we talked about, many of these larger brands are really profit-driven because they have they're public companies. Their margin erosion is going to be really impacted as they start to invest in responsible manufacturing. And if they have an incentive at the end to be responsible, to reduce the risks across the planet, and that banks are giving them a pat on the back for it and saying, you know what, it actually makes sense for you to be more responsible. Let's give you more money, or you don't have to pay us as much because we reduce our risk and you reduce yours, and you're doing good things in the end. I think those opportunities with the financing and the private sector and the public sector are real big unlocks that we've been waiting to see happen in the industry right now. And I hope it comes really sooner than later.
And from a marketing standpoint, sustainability is something that many companies are eager to tap into. How can you tell who's genuinely doing it for the right reasons, or does it really matter with the consumer?
Well, basically,
Greenwashing
that's the problem, I think, right now, because sustainability is becoming a trend, or the word sustainability, but what's really happening within and behind closed doors We really don't know until we use transparency tools. Well, I think Jeanine can explain more on the technical aspect of that. And these tools do exist. It's just a matter of, and also there's organizations like the UN Global Compact where basically you have to audit, you have to do things to, show your responsibility and what you have done. So I think they have to be audited and they have to use these tools.
I think that the smarter or the more engaged these consumers are, the more they're asking for things. And one of the points I brought up earlier was really transparency and trust. You start to see companies like Everlane who built their model on cost transparency. But they started to move forward and do some other things which are really great, and they're being rewarded for it on business. And you start to see them eat away at market share and opportunities for some of these other brands that have been around for 30, 50, even 100 years. So the opportunity, that transparency, traceability, the consumers asking, they want to know what their product is. They want to feel good when it's on their body. They want to know how it was produced. Was there a living wage paid to that person who made it for me? Where's that cotton from? Is it from organic, or are you just saying it's from organic? So the technology sector, along with this, is really catching up to the opportunity that they can start sharing, kind of like Google Maps, but a little bit more detailed, right? So that you really can get absolute information on the products that you have anytime you want them, and to understand more about what the companies are doing. And also for your right as a consumer to buy into the companies that you feel are doing the right thing.
But this is also in the food industry. I mean, they label things organic. How do we know? Are they regulated? No. So that is a big issue, and I think we need to come up with a much stronger way of taking a look at that and being able to have the consumer really trust what they're buying. Because at this point, I look at, I go to the supermarket and it's like, okay, I'm buying organic strawberries, but are they really organic? I still wash them with apple cider vinegar afterwards anyway, because I still don't trust it. So how do you trust, what you're wearing?
And sometimes in conversation, you can see people's eyes sort of glaze over when the word sustainability is mentioned. What do you think can be done to hold people's attention or motivate them to try to adopt sustainable practices?
I think we need to change the language. I think the word's getting tired. I have to be honest. It's just been used over and over and over again. And, people are just like, oh, God, they're talking about sustainability again. So the idea is to bring forth creative ways, new ways. I think a lot through the media and journalists such as yourself, really talking about it, and, immersive experiences. I mean, we're talking to different department stores now. Can we create, pop-up shops where people can go and visit? And the idea here is to get the consumer more involved so that they understand what it really means. Because right now it's just clearly a word. I don't think we've done what we need to do to educate them and create the proper awareness.